Hi there guys and girls, Dave here from Play TV, hope you're all well. Today I'm here with this, and it's the Thermaltake View 37 Ring. Let's roll the intro. Okay, so we'll start with a quick look around the case. We're going to start at the front here. Plenty of options to install quite a large range of fans. So there's one 140mm ring, which is a blue LED fan installed in the front here. There's options to mount up to three 140mm fans, as well as three 120mm fans. You can also install two 200mm fans here in the front. So there's quite a large option there of fans you can install. But also, includes space for radiators and things like that. So if water cooling is your thing, then the front here is where you're going to do it. Obviously, because of the huge plexi window you get on this side panel that goes all the way across and the top, there's obviously not going to be any options to mount anything in the roof. So if you're gonna do water cooling or use an AIO, then obviously the front is where you would do it, as well as on the inside here. This hard drive caddy is completely removable. So you can install, if you want to put them on show here down this section of the case here, there's also the option to do that as well. There's plenty of mounts and things like that too. So you could just remove this this cage, like I said earlier, and then install pumps, reservoirs and things like that too. Motherboard installation options. As for sizes, you can install ITX, micro ATX, ATX, and extended ATX or eATX goes all the way across to the mounts go all the way across up here. So the fact that it's a mid tower case, you can install an eATX motherboard in there is pretty good too. I think the thing you'll notice here is the vertical GPU mount. They've included this. It's just you just undo these three screws if you want to remove it. I'm going to put a GPU in that way, and for this review, Thermaltake have also included a 200mm riser cable, so that is available as well. So I'll show you guys that later. They've also chucked in their Thermaltake Ring Silent 12 CPU cooler as well, so you're also going to see that in this review. But I just thought I'd mention that too. Yeah, so back to the vertical plate here. If you don't want to use it, then it's removable, like I say, with these three screws. So you just undo that; it comes out nice and easy. Lots of nice open space inside, which can obviously show off a lot of your hardware really well as well. So the power supply area in the bottom here, absolutely no shrouds or anything like that. Some people will like that, some people won't. I think with the huge window that shows everything on display, having it all open is pretty nice. Obviously, you're going to have to try and manage your cables as well as you can, but it's easily doable nowadays. Moving around to the rear, it's a fairly standard affair. You've got 7 slots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slots. I was wrong, 8 slots. And then obviously the 2 vertical slots here. There's another, like I say, 140mm fan in the rear. Power supply area, so it's just a fairly standard affair on the back. Moving round here to the rear, lots of rubber grommets for cable management and hiding the cables and things like that. There's the 2 in the top here. They don't have a grommet there, but that's just for wiring things like the 8-pin CPU power connector and all that stuff. Another thing they've included is this hard drive bracket here, and you have the ability to mount 2.5-inch hard drives / SSDs, or one 3.5-inch hard drive. So let's just say you do decide to water cool in this case, and you take out this hard drive cage here, then you still have the ability to store to install plenty of hard drives in the rear of the case as well. So the fact that Thermaltake have included that is a huge bonus, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. Just having a bit of a hard time putting that back in. So there's that. Also, lots of well thought out, nice and little neat places to install. Sorry, to route cables as well, such as like these ones here. There's the big one in the bottom there for all the power supply cables. they've included like 2 sets of grommets here as well, so that's obviously for different lengths of motherboards and things like that. If you're going to install like eATX, then you're not going to be able to use these at all. But just, you know, standard ATX cases and things like that will be fine. So that's good too. Plenty of ventilation here. So that's, you know, should you install fans or radiators in this section of the case, or spin it round this section of the case here, then obviously it's still going to be able to chuck out loads of air and things like that. Which brings me on to the rear panel. It's also huge ventilation area here, as you can see. And it just comes with a removable dust filter. So yeah, Thermaltake have done a pretty good job in giving you a lot of options with this case. So I'm pretty pleased. So pretty pleased with it so far. You know, it gets a lot of bonus points and things like that with the review. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling. I'm gonna chuck some hardware inside, and then we'll come back and I'll let you know how the build went and things like that. So I'll see you in a sec.
The next day.
Alright, so the build's complete, and as I think you would have expected, it went very, very well. As you can see, I've installed the GPU here on the riser plate. It's using the included cable that Thermaltake also sent me, which is connected up here into the motherboard. Now, if you plan on using other PCIe cards, then as you can see, I've mounted it here in the top PCI slot. So you'd have to, I just stuck my finger in the fan. You'd have to move the riser cable down just a tad to maybe like the next lower slot, and then that way you can install your other PCIe Express cards and things like that you plan on using. But regardless, the 200mm cable that they've included here fits all the way up in the very top slot there. So, you know, I did that just so I could let you guys know about it. Back to the case. You know, should you just not want to use this at all and just have, excuse me, and just mount GPUs in the slots normally, so that, you know, they're here, then all you'd have to do is undo these 3 screws here, and this whole plate would just come out anyway. So you know, that's another option that Thermaltake have made it very easy for you to just, you know, remove a set of screws, take it out, and then it just kind of transforms into a bit more of a regular case, so to say. I've installed a SSD into this top caddy here. Now, I had not a lot of problems, but what I'm going to do is just unplug the power cable here. I had a couple of issues where, as you can see here, the SATA cable was like very, very squeezed into this gap here. You know, so Thermaltake might need to maybe next time just kind of extend the gap over just a little bit here, as you can see. And then that way, because it's really squeezed. Like I had to adjust the cable, like just to push it back in. So as you can see, like I'm moving it, I can't get it in. I do have to wiggle it a bit. Like it kind of sounds like I'm being finicky, but you know, at the end of the day, I'm doing a review, so it's just another thing that I thought I'd mention. Personally, if I was going to use this case, I would probably just take this hard drive cage out completely, and then just be inclined to mount my hard drives and SSDs on these trays in the back here, and that's purely what I think is for, you know, sort of aesthetic reasons and things like that. And then that way it's just all open, nice and tidy. You know, this cage isn't here. Obviously, if you're worried about you know, your hard drive's not getting any cooling or anything like that, then you can just leave this in. You know, they'll be cooled by the fan blowing air over the hard drives and things like that. So it's totally up to you. I'm just saying that's something that I would do personally. Plenty of space in the bottom here, as you can see, when I mounted the power supply. So, you know, you'd be able to fit in like much longer power supplies. So, you know, there's nothing to worry about there as well. I think the hole in the bottom here with the with the grommets here is in the perfect location for power supply lengths. No matter the length, you'll still definitely be able to get the cables routed through there, so that's great. As you can see, I've just installed a MSI Gaming Pro Carbon B450 motherboard here, but that's just a standard ATX motherboard. So there are some grommets here that are available to use for cable routing and things like that. So as you can see, it's added a very nice and clean, tidy aesthetic. So yeah, just carries on well with the overall build. Up here in the top is where I've routed the 8-pin power cable for the CPU power. I'll move around so you guys can see it. Like I said, it's not really a big deal that there's no no rubber grommets and things like that up here, because there's not a whole bunch of cables, to be honest. The only other cable here is the one coming from this Thermaltake Ring Silent 12 CPU caller, and that is the RGB cable, which I've connected in the bottom of the motherboard here. So the length of the cable for this CPU caller is really, really long. It goes all the way around the back and into the bottom there. Just another thing worth mentioning. The aesthetic of the build is fantastic. It's nice and clean and tidy. I didn't bother like readjusting the cables for the front I/O. They just go straight out the front there, straight in there, and then round the back to the bottom. Obviously, if you're going to install things like a 360mm radiator, like here for example, then these are going to need to be rerouted, because a lot of this would be cut off. This hole up here would be cut off pretty much all the way up. So you need to find somewhere else to route those cables. But there's a lot of management around the back and things like that, so you could probably just drop it down the front, and then there's a hole there. You could probably just bung them through there. So the overall design's been well looked after as far as I'm concerned. We'll move it around to the back. I've not done a huge amount of cable tidying, to be honest. I've just routed all the front I/O cables there. There's a cable tie here which tie them all together, and then obviously they spread out and go where they need to go. I haven't needed to really manage the cables at all. They just kind of come out of the hit, where they come from, and then just kind of route naturally to where they go. So yeah, and obviously there's a lot of room and well thought out locations. So let's say you want to mount a couple of hard drives, you could do that like there and there. There's going to be plenty of room to route cables and things like that to them as well. So yeah, that's great. Enough of me rambling about the build. I've kind of made it fairly obvious that I think it's gone without a hitch really at all. So I'm going to move into the conclusion. I'll see you in a sec. So roundup time. What's hot about this case? I think the first thing's obviously the original gull-wing window. It's completely original to this case. It gives it all of its character. I actually really like it a lot. I think the fact that it curls up and goes almost all the way across the whole top of the case as well just opens it up, makes it a whole lot more visible, and gives it its attractiveness. Moving on, there's a full complement of dust filters. You get this huge one in the bottom here, which covers the length of the case. There's also another one in the rear of the case here. That one's magnetic and removable, and that's obviously for the vertical radiator view mounts, which is this section of mounts that go along the back of the case here. And there's dust filters on both of the intakes on the sides of the front of the case here as well. So that's another positive. There's a huge, large open area inside of the case. If I was personally going to use it, I'd probably just think about getting rid of this hard drive cage here, sticking the hard drives on the mounts in the back of the case, just kind of keeping them out of the way. It just kind of opens it up, makes it a whole lot bigger, and then obviously custom water cooling loops and things like that are most definitely an option with this case as well. This case is TTLCS certified as well, just to let you know. So there's even though traditionally you would mount like water cooling options in the top of the case, that's not an option here. but you know, Thermaltake have given you plenty of other options to mount 360, 420mm radiators in this case, in both the front and the vertical, the VRV is what they're calling it, which is obviously just this side section here. So yeah, you know, there's a lot of that stuff covered. And then obviously the other originality things is the vertical GPU mount here, or Thermaltake are calling it the they've called it rather boringly the riser GPU support bracket. So you know, vertical graphics card mount is basically what it is. You'd obviously need to purchase the riser cable separately. Comes in like 2, 3, 500mm length or something like that. But there's a couple of different options available. The one that was given to me for this review is the 200mm length version, but that does stretch all the way up to the top slot, no problem at all. So you know, that's perfectly fine for this case. Price. Talking about price of the case, it comes from a bunch of whole different retailers here in the UK at the time of review, anywhere from between £100 to £115. And for that, I feel it's very reasonably priced. The case is very well laid out overall. It's well thought out. And yeah, it's very, very easy to build inside of. The build took me probably 45 minutes, something like that, just to get all the hardware installed and up and running. So yeah, you know, it's very well laid out. All the grommet holes and holes and things like that are all in the ideal locations, and typical stuff that you expect to see from, you know, what a premium case manufacturer is basically what I'm trying to say. Finally, I think the last thing that's worth mentioning is obviously this edition that I have here for review today it's just called the Riing edition. That's with 2 eyes. This comes with 2 blue LED 140mm fans. There's the one in the rear, the one in the front. Like I've said earlier, just thought I'd mention it again. There's also the RGB version, which comes with 3 140mm fans. So that's 2 in the front, 1 in the rear. Slightly more expensive options, obviously, but that one has the fully addressable RGB fans. There's also the ARGB version of the View 37, and that comes with the 5-volt 5-volt addressable fans. So obviously the RGB ones have the 12-volt fans, and then the ARGB has the 5-volt fans. Just thought, you know, I'd mention that, as it might be something that you guys are also considering. So award time, and obviously it's going to get a gold award. It's a fantastic case. Build quality is excellent. There isn't really anything, obviously, apart from this reset button, I actually don't really like about the case at all. I just think the reset button's it's just too small. Like, what's the point in having it if you just can't press it with your finger? Like, just needing a tool to press the button is, in my opinion, is just a bit stupid. There's obviously other things, like in their marketing mumbo jumbo, that says it's all like toolless, like removable toollessly, which just isn't true. You need a screwdriver, things like that. But you know, that's what you kind of expect. Like, there are things like thumb screws and things like that, but to remove, like, you know, this the vertical GPU mount and the hard drive cage, like say you want to take that out and things like that, you need a screwdriver to do that. But it's just things that I feel worth mentioning. So yeah, anyway, gold award for the Thermaltake View 37. Thanks for watching. I've been Dave from Player TV. Consider subscribing for more videos like this in the future. Press the bell down there in the corner next to the subscribe button, and that's just to get a notification every time a video goes live. And I'll see you again in the next one. Bye for now.